Today on Dad Hut, we're taking a look at the brand new Backbone Pro Edition versus the OG original Backbone 1 Edition. What are the differences? Let's find out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dad Hut. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the brand new Backbone Pro Edition, and we're going to be comparing it to the OG original Backbone 1 Edition. So before we jump into comparing the two, let's just talk a little bit, just real quick, what they do. These are basically controllers for your mobile phone. That is ideally what they're for. You're going to be able to plug your phone into these controllers and then basically have a mobile gaming system wherever you go. On the Pro, I'm going to be showing you here some footage of just going through the Backbone app. You can use their app if you want to. It's not required. You do not need to pay their subscription fee or anything like that if you don't want to do that. If you want some of their benefits, go ahead and take a look at it. But if not, you don't have to. But you can go through the Backbone app, or you can download apps individually like the Steam Link or the Xbox Remote Play, PlayStation Remote Play. So the Backbone Pro Edition just came out, and this retails for about $170, and the original OG Backbone 1 retails for about $100. So what are you getting for $70 more in the Pro Edition? Let's dive in. The very first thing I want to point out is on the Pro Edition, you're going to have a USB-C type adapter there, which is great for Androids, and the newer iPhones, iPhone 15 and 16, they switched from the Lightning port and they have now gone to the standard USB-C type, which is great. They should have done that in the first place. But if you have an older iPhone, anything that's 14 and below, you're going to need, if you want to connect directly, you will need one with a Lightning port, and they do not make the Pro in the Lightning port because as iPhones get older, those are going to get phased out and nobody's really going to have Lightning ports anymore. But I did want to just point that out. You can get the OG in either connection, but on the Pro, it only comes in the USB Type-C only, which is going to be, again, great for Androids and the new iPhones. Now, just because you have an old iPhone doesn't mean you can't use the Pro, because, which we'll touch on later, the new Pro has Bluetooth, and you can actually Bluetooth to anything that can take Bluetooth. So just because you have an old iPhone doesn't mean you can't use it. You're just not going to be able to connect physically to the Backbone Pro. You're going to have to do it through the Bluetooth, which we'll talk about a little later. So let's talk about some of the physical differences. Obviously, right away, you can tell that the Backbone Pro is much thicker than the original. It is a much sturdier grip. I believe that's because the batteries are in there, but it feels much better in your hand. It doesn't feel so flimsy and light. These feel more like, on the original, feels more like a Joy-Con from like a Nintendo Switch, maybe a little bit thicker, but not a whole lot to grab onto. On the Pro, you've got a lot of grip there. Like I said, probably, I don't know, double as far as the actual hand grip. Now, it is going to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, but I think that's worth the trade-off just because it feels better in your hand. Also, the actual analog sticks are much bigger on the Pro. They feel something like, as far as size-wise go, they feel more like a standard PlayStation or Xbox controller analog stick. As far as the original OG one, looks more and feels more like a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con. They're very small. They don't move very much. And they're kind of flimsy and floaty. I did not like them. It's kind of hard to be very precise with them. They certainly did upgrade that on the Pro Edition. They are much, much better to use, in my opinion. They're not going to be, I think, as far as quality goes, as something like if you were to buy the PlayStation Pro controller or something like that. But it certainly is a much in need improvement over the original. And if we look at the directional pads, the Backbone Pro has a glossy finish on the directional pad, and the actual buttons as well. They have a glossy finish. And on the OG, it is more of a matte finish as far as the buttons and the directional pad. Now, I will say audibly on the OG, it is louder. So if we can listen to that. Let me put it by the microphone. And then on the Pro, they certainly do make noise, both of them, but I feel like the Pro is a little bit quieter when it comes to actually pushing the physical buttons. As far as how far they stretch, I believe it's very similar. You're not going to be able to get an iPad, something like an iPad mini or something in there. It's just not going to fit on either of these. So these are strictly for a phone. You're going to only be able to use mobile phones as far as physically connecting them. Now, again, we will go over it here in a bit, but this does have Bluetooth capability and this one does not. So if we look on the actual back of the controllers, you will notice that the Pro has two back buttons that you can go into the Backbone app and you can program these two back buttons to whatever you want them to be, which you would typically find on a Pro controller is going to have rear buttons that you can program. On the OG one, there is obviously no buttons on the back and you cannot reprogram any of these buttons. On the Pro, you can reprogram these back buttons to whatever you want, and you can actually change any of these buttons in here within the Backbone app to whatever you prefer them to be. So if you want to change the jump button from A to B, you can switch those around inside the menu and switch it up to whatever you prefer and like. If you look at the rest, it's all the same. You have your capture button, you know, your menu button, your start button, and your Backbone button, which will take you directly to the Backbone app. All of that is the same. Now, one of the biggest, and I think the biggest difference is if you look here underneath, you have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on both of them, and then you also have a pass-through charging port. So you can charge your phone at the same time as you're playing, as long as you plug it in through here if you're willing to be wired. They both have that going for them. But what we have on the Pro that we don't have on the OG is this button right here. And that button is your Bluetooth button. So if we push that button, hold down for a second, we will see now that there is a blue ring lighting up around the Backbone button, which means it's in pairing mode, and it will look to pair Bluetooth with this controller. And the reason why that is important is because this can now be a controller for just about anything. You can connect this to your PC, you can connect this to your phone via Bluetooth, you can connect this to a larger iPad, you can, anything but your TV, if it takes a Bluetooth controller, then you can connect this to it. So you don't actually have to physically connect something to this controller to use it, which is great. On the original OG, you're only going to be able to play with whatever you can actually physically mount inside the actual Backbone controller, which I would assume is what most people are going to use it for. But if you want something even more versatile, then the Backbone Pro is going to have you covered there. So as I'm going to demonstrate in this video, here I am connected to my iPhone Pro 13, and I'm going to use this as a Bluetooth controller. So I am controlling the game even though I'm not connected to the Backbone itself. So like I said earlier, even if you have an older iPhone and you cannot connect to the new USB-C type, which iPhone has switched to, you can still Bluetooth connect this to your phone. And now I can actually insert this in here, even though it's the iPhone, and I can put that in there. And yes, it's going to look a little wonky, but it will still stay in there. It's not going to be completely firm, but you can still just use this. And I'm just Bluetoothed in instead of actually physically connecting in with my iPhone. So let's resume. And we're playing. So we still got the same setup. We're using the iPhone, even though we have the Lightning port on the iPhone 13 Pro, but I'm just Bluetoothed in instead. Still working as normal, right? So again, here we are using the Bluetooth function to play on a bigger screen. We're using an iPad mini. So if we are traveling or something, you can connect this to a bigger tablet or, like I said, to your PC, and you can use this as your controller for that as well. So kind of an all-in-one solution. Use your phone when you need to, and then when you want to switch over to something on a bigger screen, you can do that as well. So one of the other things they've changed is they've actually, kind of conformed to these new phones with these giant camera bumps that are on the back. If you look here, I can put this in here, and on the back, you can see there's plenty of room left, even with a case and a camera bump. So as the camera bumps get bigger, you're gonna have more room on the Pro. Whereas if you look at the standard, if we look at the standard, I can't even plug it in through the lightning port. I'm not even getting in over here. And you can just see it's already crammed in the back. There's no room. I can't even get it to stay in there. So they've added a lot more room for those camera bumps as phones get bigger. So that's one upgrade on the actual Pro. So I'm going to show you me playing some Xbox remote play games here. I'm going to show you Sea of Thieves and Oblivion. And the controller feels great. It does feel much, much better than the original. It still doesn't feel like having, I guess, a dedicated PlayStation Pro controller in your hand, but it certainly is an upgrade over the original Backbone as far as how the controls feel. It does feel very smooth, very responsive, whether you're using it hardwired in or if you're using it through the Bluetooth. It both feels pretty good. It feels very, very responsive. And I can say overall, the experience of playing games on the Backbone controller is pretty good. For being able to play in your backyard or go anywhere you want to go, if you're on, a plane or something like that, to be able to just pop in your phone and play this is great. It works really, really well. So as far as the differences, I think that about sums it up. If I've missed anything, let me know down in the comments. We've got thicker grips. We've got customizable buttons and new back buttons as well. We've got upgraded analog sticks, and then we also have the Bluetooth function, which now makes this controller compatible with a ton of other screens, whereas the original, only what you can connect to the actual Backbone is what you could use. So is it worth the $70 upgrade? Well, that's going to be kind of hard for me to say, because it's going to really depend on how often you would use this device. If you are somebody who travels, like I said, if you do public transportation or something like that, and you take a subway or whatever into work every day and you've got some downtime, then maybe investing in something like this might be worth it. If you are just somebody who occasionally might use something like this, I don't know about spending $170 over $100, especially if you look on the used market. You can get these kind of cheap. I would love to see the Backbone Pro come in at around 140, 150, maybe knock a little bit off of that to get it closer to this. But that's where it is when it just released. So those prices could change in the future. Either way, I hope this video did help you out, guys. If you liked it, please subscribe to the channel so you don't ever miss any of these Dad Hut videos, and I'll see you on the next one.